So we're getting this breaking news. At any moment, we are expecting the powers that be in the European Union to hold a news conference regarding whether they will grant yet another extension to the United Kingdom to give Britain more time to sort out this tangled mess that is Brexit. Right now, they're having a working dinner. We kind of expected that this news conference would have happened already, but the European Union UK divorce, as it's known, called Brexit, the discussion continuing at this hour. It's sort of this never-ending saga. British Prime Minister Theresa May earlier gave a speech to EU officials at a, should we call it a begging speech, in Brussels, indicating that she is, quote, open to a longer Brexit extension as long as it can, quote, be terminated early. The man who perhaps better than anyone else might see the Brexit situation most clearly just returned from Dublin, Ireland, and is well-versed in how the outcome might impact European markets, maybe even our markets, having served on the front lines overseas as the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European Affairs. Charles Ries joins us now on a Fox Business exclusive. And Charles, what do you make of, A, the fact that we haven't seen this news conference happen yet, and B, that if they do grant an extension, what does that mean? What is that really telling us?
Well, Liz, it's good to talk to you again. I think that they probably will grant an extension. Certainly, all of the expectations are that they will, and it will be probably to the end of the year, perhaps into next year. What does it mean? It means really that the reality show that is Brexit will get a new season.
Nice.
It's really because the British haven't been able to get the withdrawal agreement that was negotiated through, despite 3 tries, and Mrs. May pulled back, couldn't get it at a 4th try, and they just need an extension to avoid the hard Brexit and all of the economic sort of consequences that would have meant.
Right. I like to never assume that everybody knows what we're talking about. That's what other business networks do, and they just go ahead and start throwing terms out or issues. We should let people know, and you're just back from Ireland, that the big sticking point is this border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, yet Ireland itself is part of the European Union. What do the Irish want? Do they want a porous trade border between it and Northern Ireland? Because that's been working really well over the past several years.
That's right. They want an invisible border. They don't want border posts. They don't want any indication that there is a border, because for the Irish, they visualize Ireland as a whole. Mm-hmm. And the Good Friday Accords that were reached back in the Tony Blair days in the 1990s took advantage of the fact that in the single market, with the single market, EU countries took away all border posts between themselves and kept open borders. So you don't see a border today between France and Belgium, for example. You just drive through and maybe there's a sign like when you go into a new town here in the U.S., but there's no other external indication. So that's what they want. They are convinced that preservation of peace and avoidance of all of the illegality and smuggling that happened in the bad old days in Ireland depends on keeping no border. That means that the British can't have an independent trade policy unless they can work out some way to enforce trade barriers and borders and differences in trade regimes away from the border.
The French president is commenting, and we have officials who are, and forgive me, I'm just going to look down for a minute with my glasses on to read this, because the French president has been taking a bit of a stronger view here. And apparently these current Brexit documents on the table at this event that's happening do not include serious guarantees which would not allow for a long extension in France's view. There are way too many negatives in that sentence for me to understand it, Charles. Do you?
Yeah, well, I guess one implication here is that the French are concerned that if the British remain members of the EU, that they could gum up the works, for example, on the new budget, on the new 7-year budget that they need to work on this fall. And without much of a long-term stake in the EU, the British could, and particularly if there's another prime minister after Theresa May, could gum up the works. And they're concerned about guarantees against that happening. happening if there is a long extension.
I really have to run, but I need to know from you. Our viewers want to know, will it affect our markets?
I think if there is an extension for another year, no, it's not. It shouldn't be an effect on the market.
Ambassador Charles Ries, now with the RAND Corporation, thank you for coming on.